Late the Phalarope is the second novel written by Alan Paton, published in 1953. Set in South Africa, Paton's home country, it explores the internal struggle of an Afrikaner police officer torn between his duty and his personal belief in the immorality of apartheid laws. The title of the novel references the phalarope, a shorebird found in Africa and other regions. Paton, a vocal anti-apartheid activist, uses his literary work to condemn the unjust and discriminatory racial segregation enforced in South Africa. The story is narrated by Sophie, the aunt of the protagonist, Pieter van Vlaanderen. She reflects on the possibility of having saved Pieter with just a few words. Sophie delves into Pieter's childhood, as she has been a part of his life since he was young. She portrays his strained relationship with his father, emphasizing that although Pieter possesses strength like his father, he also inherits his mother's gentle and compassionate nature. Contrasting with rigidity and harshness. As Pieter grows into adulthood, he becomes a soldier and receives recognition for his service in the war. After the war, he joins the police force, obtaining the position of second-in-command due to his military reputation. Sergeant Stein, an experienced officer, becomes resentful of Pieter's higher rank despite his own years of service. Pieter frequently engages in rugby matches with fellow townspeople. During one rugby game, Pieter witnesses a teammate engaging in a romantic encounter with a young black woman. However, such relationships are prohibited by the Immorality Act of 1927, which forbids interracial relationships. Pieter has the authority to arrest the man, but instead chooses to issue a verbal warning. Later, Pieter visits his friend Matthew Cappy Kaplan's store, where they discuss their shared interest in stamp collecting. During a visit to his friend Cappy's store, Pieter is taken aback when his disapproving father, Jacob, unexpectedly shows up. Pieter feels uncomfortable, as his father has always criticized his hobby of stamp collecting for not being masculine enough. This encounter dampens Pieter's mood, leading him to abruptly leave. The incident triggers a deep depression within him. In the midst of his despondency, Pieter becomes involved in a murder case. The accused, a man named Smith, had an illicit affair with a black maid, resulting in her pregnancy, a clear violation of the Immorality Act. Fearing the consequences of breaking the law, Smith resorts to murder and decapitates the maid to conceal her identity. However, his crime is discovered, and he is sentenced to death. Later on, Pieter is assigned to pursue another criminal named Stephanie, a young black woman who supports an illegitimate child by producing and selling illegal alcohol. Stephanie has a history of being caught and serving short jail terms for her activities. When Pieter confronts Stephanie, he unexpectedly finds himself attracted to her, despite being married and fully aware of the prohibition against relationships with black women. He refers to his feelings for Stephanie as the mad sickness and tries to suppress them. Pieter brings Stephanie to court to face the charges against her. The judge warns her that she may lose custody of her child if she continues to break the law. This threat strikes a chord with Stephanie, as previous sentences had failed to deter her, but the prospect of losing her child resonates deeply. On Jacob's birthday, Pieter surprises him with a gift, a book called The Birds of South Africa. This surprises everyone because Jacob is not known to be a reader, having only been seen reading the Bible. Nonetheless, Jacob is genuinely pleased with the unexpected present. Meanwhile, Pieter's strained marriage to Nella takes a temporary respite as she takes their children to visit her parents for an extended period. Secretly, both Pieter and Nella welcome the opportunity to spend time apart. In the midst of these events, Stephanie pays a visit to Pieter's house to inform him that she has found legal employment and will no longer engage in the illegal sale of alcohol. Pieter's aunt Sophie becomes aware of the exchanged look between Pieter and Stephanie and senses trouble brewing. Concerned about Pieter's growing and forbidden attraction, he attempts to confide in his friend Cappy but finds himself unable to speak about it. Cappy notices that Pieter is troubled but respects his privacy and refrains from prying. A few days later, Pieter spends time with his cousin Anna, engaging in conversation and drinking brandy. Emboldened by the alcohol, which is not his usual choice of beverage, Pieter deliberately seeks out Stephanie and the two of them sleep together, defying the law. However, upon returning home, Pieter is alarmed to find a note on his door that reads, "I saw you." Paranoia consumes him as he imagines that everyone he knows has discovered his secret. His fears are put to rest when he encounters Cappy, who confesses to leaving the note after seeing Pieter drinking with Anna. For a brief period, things improve for Pieter. Sergeant Stein goes on a vacation with his family, and Nella returns, leading to a passionate reunion between Pieter and his wife. However, their relationship soon reverts to its previous tensions, and their marital discord resurfaces. Frustrated and depressed, Pieter succumbs to his desires and has a second sexual encounter with Stephanie. Following this act, guilt and internal conflict consume Pieter as he grapples with his role in upholding the law while secretly breaking it. He is overwhelmed by shame. The entire Van Vladeren family enjoys a picnic together, which Sophie recalls as the last time they were truly united and happy. Pieter and Jacob embark on a walk, using the bird book Pieter had gifted his father. It is a rare moment of joy shared between father and son as they spot various notable birds, including the elusive Phalarope.at work. Pieter discovers that Stephanie has lost her job and is at risk of losing custody of her child. She finds him in the street and pleads for his assistance, requiring funds for a lawyer. Pieter agrees to help her, but insists on keeping their arrangement a secret. In their next encounter, Pieter and Stephanie give in to their desires once again, despite Pieter's previous promise to himself. However, their actions have consequences. The following morning, Pieter is summoned to the police captain's office, accused of violating the Immorality Act. Pieter initially denies the accusations, but as the captain presents evidence against him, including a seashell that Stephanie had planted in his pocket, Pieter's guilt becomes apparent. The seashell is the same one collected by Stein's daughter, given to Stephanie to incriminate Pieter. Stephanie's accurate description of the seashell further solidifies the evidence against Pieter. Jacob, Pieter's father, is furious and disgusted by his son's actions. He goes to the extent of crossing out Pieter's name from the family Bible, disowning him and declaring that anyone who maintains contact with Pieter will no longer be welcome in his home. Despite the consequences, Sophie chooses to support Pieter, even at the cost of being barred from her own brother's house. Pieter loses his job and finds himself abandoned by everyone except for Cappy, Sophie, and the police captain, who reveals that he is the father of Stephanie's child. Shortly after these events, Jacob passes away. Pieter is sentenced to prison for breaking the Immorality Act. Before his departure, he entrusts Sophie with his diary and asks her to pass it on to Nella. Using the diary as a narrative source, Sophie tells Pieter's story. While Too Late the Phalarope did not achieve the same level of popularity as its predecessor, the critical consensus is that Paton's second novel is superior. Critics have drawn parallels between the novel and a Greek tragedy, with a noble hero brought down by a single tragic flaw. The book strongly denounces apartheid and the discriminatory laws that upheld racist practices. Almost 3 decades later, Paton wrote a third novel, But Your Land is Beautiful, which also addresses anti-racist themes. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.